Welcome to the Elk Season Podcast, Season 2, Episode 29.
29.
We are the Chambers Brothers. My name is Harold.
I'm David.
And today on the Elk Season Podcast,
We have some hopscotching stories from across the U.S., all the way from elk in the east, cougars in the driveway this week. We also have some foul poachers and some wily coyotes.
like it. All right, we have actually more to talk about than what you just talked about in our intro. Because I have some things not
Okay.
on the list.
Really?
I have some surprises for you.
Okay.
Number one.
Number one.
This is a
it.
big story. This is a really big story this week.
Okay.
Some Colorado wolves were killed
Oh, do tell.
legally
Legal.
in Wyoming.
Oh,
Hunters in Wyoming.
gotcha.
There's a lot to
Okay.
this story. There's a lot of interesting because there's, this. I think a wolf pack is maybe 7 or 9. It's not a very big. It's not a very big pack, and I think 3 or 4 were killed. So a lot of them. But this is the very first breeding pack in Colorado in 80 years.
When we talked about this in prior podcasts, because they had come down from the north, from out of Wyoming.
Yes,
So it makes
yes.
sense to me that they would maybe wander back over.
No,
No?
they didn't wander back over.
Wait, hold on. What did I miss here?
They were called over the border.
Okay, my bad.
They were lured over the Colorado border with
Interesting.
calls.
Okay.
And because of Wyoming's hunter harassment policies, because of all the Karens that would inhabit Yellowstone and around there,
Okay.
they have a very strict, we're not telling who killed these wolves.
Okay.
We don't want any hunter harassment. So fishing game in Wyoming is tight-lipped about it.
Interesting. I say.
So on one hand, it's kind of a bummer. I mean, I think it's kind of a bummer. And on the other hand, it doesn't change anything.
Not really.
It's just a drop in the bucket. It's not really that big a deal. The Colorado voters have voted to bring wolves back
Yeah.
to Colorado, and there will be wolves in Colorado. That reintroduction process is gonna take a while, and it's gonna go through the courts and blah blah blah. And I would imagine grizzly bears will be back in Colorado soon as well.
Yeah, them Grizz, man. They're what did I see? Oh no, I'm thinking of last podcast. There's I've seen headlines, but I only managed to capture one to put in our folder for today. But it seemed like I saw a grizzly headline since last we talked, but it's lost on me. But
So-
eventually they'll be back.
I wonder if you could pull up. I got mine here too.
Laptop here.
If you could pull up a graph or a chart that shows the increase in human and grizzly bear interactions, right? You know what I'm trying to say. The grizzly interactions and how many have there been? How many over? Because reading this book, having read the book Grizzly in the Driveway, there is, there was a lot of new bears this year. The growth rate of grizzly bears in the Intermountain Northwest and the greater Northern Divide ecosystems is about 3% a year, but 3% of 20 is not as much as 3% of 150, right? So how many more bears are there this year? And another interesting tidbit that I pulled from that book is that grizzly bears like to inhabit the interior. Did we cover that on the podcast?
Remind me.
They like to inhabit the interior. So the bigger and the older the grizzly bears are, the further they are from humans.
Okay,
The younger, more inexperienced grizzly
Sure,
bears, the
right.
closer they are to humans.
that would make sense.
So, so those are the ones that get pushed out and have to get to learn all the mistakes and all the fun stuff. You find anything?
Nothing quickly. I mean, it's you have to vet the internet pretty carefully.
Yeah.
Or very closely vet. There are some stuff that comes up from a website I've never really heard of.
Yeah.
Let me see here. Let's see this. Oh, this is demographic change in Yellowstone's grizzly bear population, but that's not interaction with human beings. There's ResearchGate dot something dot net, but a dot net I'm not sure about. Severe attacks on human all areas. This information is not intuitive, so it's hard to interpret quickly for our conditions here. This is British Columbia, so it's not the United States necessarily. So nothing quickly. And I just a graph of grizzly bear interactions with man. That might have been a poor choice of wording for my Google search, but
Okay.
Montana State University has something. Okay, let me click on that one. Oh, and it's a PDF. Okay, download and bring your virus with you.
Just read the abstract. You're okay. Also, the the Salt Lake Sportsman Show is February 15th, 11th, 12th, 13th, 14th, and 15th. Not the 14th. Sorry.
Which show?
The Sportsman Show, like
I mean, where?
the entire Salt Lake.
Oh, Salt Lake. Okay.
Salt Lake, yeah. So it's gonna be a big show. You want to go on a mandate with me?
I do.
Okay.
We've talked about this in years
I
past.
know.
Well, just like years past. It's our second year. But
Well,
we
this
talked
is-
about
well,
doing
it's almost our third year.
We're
We're
headed there.
wrapping up the second year.
But no, we talked about it. We talked about missing the one our first year of the podcast.
Yeah.
And we talked about maybe anticipating the second one, then we forgot about it.
yeah.
And so,
So now that's why I'm talking to you about
Yeah,
it now
good.
and on the podcast. So there's a record of it.
yes.
You got some grizzly bear stats?
I'm reading to the abstract. Don't tell my instructor.
Oh, okay. So they're going to have a lot of trophy animals there. Some guest speakers, live auctions. That looks like a buffet. I love buffets. Oh, Margaritaville. Get tickets. All right. The 2023 Western Hunting and Conservation Expo closes after a record-breaking tag sales and attendance rates, nearly $14 million for conservation.
Jeez.
Way to go, sportsman.
So you said that it's sold out?
That was previous.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, it does say here that it's coming up in February 11th, 12th, 13th, and 15th of 2024. Oh.
Okay, use location data, applied HRA. We found, from the
Okay.
abstract,
Yeah.
grizzly bears were twice as likely to be within an HRA when a BMA was restricted. Hold on, I need to know what the acronyms are or the abbreviations.
All right, maybe we're on the wrong subject with
Bear-
this. I just was wondering if there was a quick.
Hold on.
Yeah.
They're right here. It says bear management area. You just
Yeah.
got to go back up for it. Bear management
Okay.
area versus HRA. Where's the habitat? Human something. It doesn't. Oh, human recreation area. So human recreation area versus bear management area. And so now
Gotcha.
I can
Okay. So say those two things again. Human.
human recreation area.
So campsites.
Yep.
Okay.
And bear management area.
So
Campsites.
grizzly habitat.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, grizzly habitat and human habitat where these are coming together.
They use the grizzly bear global positioning system location data study, blah, blah, blah. This is 2013, by the way, so
Okay.
it's 10 years old.
Oh,
Contrasted.
no. Yeah. So I wanted to know how
Yeah.
many, what it was in 2020 or, 2023, if there was any census done, grizzly bear census.
So unfortunately, that was my quick research skills
Okay.
brought up something 10 years old.
Let's try this. Grizzly bear census graph. And go. Whoops. Why didn't it go? Grizzly bear census graph. There we go. So yeah, we'll just I just wanted the graph. And okay, here we go. In 2010, yeah, that's old data. I suppose they're going to have too much. There's 2016. Ooh, that's a big jump though. Okay. In 2005, we're at okay. You know what? I should have done my research before we came into the podcast.
Yeah.
My bad. I thought about it. And I thought, sometimes it's so easy just to Google this stuff and pull it up. That's too much of a train wreck, obviously. I'm sorry for the confusion.
It's okay.
I wanted to go. So there were three things I wanted to talk about before we got to the list.
Okay.
Number one was the wolves that were called out of Colorado
Okay.
and killed in Wyoming. Number two was the Sportsman Show.
Yes.
So we got that out of the way. I definitely want to go to the Sportsman Show. I saw a lot of other a lot of stuff from the show in years past.
What day is it again?
It's mid-February.
Because I've got something going on in Burley on February 9th. So as long as it's not that
it's
day.
on days. It's on days opposite Valentine's Day.
Okay.
The 13th and the 15th.
Okay.
So I'm guessing the 14th is a Friday or Saturday night or something, and they're not going to take Valentine's away from sportsmen. I know.
Okay.
I know.
All right.
Yeah.
Wink, wink. Nudge, nudge. Say no more.
The other thing I just wanted to reiterate the sort of mission statement as we come to close to the end of the year.
Yes.
For the Elk Season podcast. I just wanted to reiterate our mission statement.
Yes.
Which is to keep elk on our mind all year long.
Yes.
That's number one. We want to be thinking about elk hunting every day and at least every week. But we want to think about it, and I want to talk about it when I see people I know. And now I see people that I know all the time, and I'm always talking to them about elk season. And we want to talk about what the elk are doing right now.
Yeah.
Where are they in their life cycle? And I went out to the late archery hunt in Area 55 here in Idaho this last weekend.
I was eager to hear about it. Well, success is subjective.
No harvest.
No harvest.
No
okay.
harvest. Yeah. Yeah, I was really looking to do some scoping, and I really like glassing, and I like getting the video and seeing seeing the wild animals and just driving and getting out. That's what I've always liked. And
long history of hanging out with you that way.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah. So, and there's a nice herd in the South Hills around Twin Falls here. Did that just bump over?
Yeah. So,
okay.
For those following along at home, if you were wondering what Harold just witnessed, behind me on the screen is the audio being recorded, and so I tend to forget to set it to this, but I'm going to follow along.
Okay.
So if it fills the screen and it jumps over to the next screen, it just follows it. So it jumps over to the next screen. It'll fill that screen and it'll jump over.
Okay.
So not a big deal. Sorry.
So I don't need to freak out anymore. Okay, good.
No,
Thank you.
Nope, it's all good. Only if
and
it goes black and I need to turn around and wiggle them out.
Some of these elk in the South Hills are the record-breaking elk for the entire state of Idaho.
Heard and seen pictures for years now.
Yeah, and we're talking 400 inches on these elk, over 400 inches on many of these.
Means
bulls.
something to somebody, not me necessarily, because I still don't get it, but I appreciate every attempt you try to.
Yeah,
tell me
it's you get a bull in the 300s, but you were a stud. But a 400.
I guess
is just
that's
amazing.
what makes me a stud.
So I really want to get my eyes on them, and I would love to see some footage of them, and as they come out of the hills, and before the snow melts, and try to get eyes on them, see where they are and what they're doing. So that's I'm sorry, that's part of my goal. That's not part of the mission statement of the Elk Season podcast. I went out because I wanted to see what the elk are doing on a regular basis throughout the year.
Yeah.
And we want to talk about everything that relates to elk, which is everything.
Right.
Because it includes the weather.
Yeah.
If you can talk about the weather, you can talk about elk season.
And just to piggyback off of what you're saying, just before you got over here today, I watched a video that was released by the Idaho Division of the Montana Fish, Wildlife, and Parks, Idaho Fish and Game.
Right.
They released a video that talked about the elk management zones here in Idaho, and they talked about elk, habitat and food sources and things like that. So if you haven't had a chance to check it out, if you get on the mailing list, if you're not for the Idaho Fish and Game, they send you a newsletter every week or so. I get a newsletter, and I always try to pull it up and look at it. I saw it come through yesterday, didn't have time, but then I remembered I had it, so I jumped in there right before you got over here, 10-minute video, and I was surprised that I thought they were going to talk about elk and deer in the video. It was just all about elk.
Wow.
And
Nice.
habitat.
Nice.
They talked about life cycle. They talked mostly about cows and what that means. and it's important stuff, and that's
Yeah.
something we talked about.
Did you
historically?
did you discover anything new and interesting you didn't know before? Or
One of the things they talked about, I don't know exactly what the elk eat. And after watching that video, because I was still
know.
kind of distracted here, I'm still not 100% sure. But they did talk a little bit about what the food tend to eat. I'm sorry, what the food tend to eat. What the elk tend to feed on.
right?
But there was a particular shrub or something that they tend to eat. They showed a picture of many mountainscapes that we've been across, right? You look at it and you
Yes.
go, oh, the elk would probably eat any number of items in this image, in this picture. No, they highlighted what the elk were eating in that image, and I was
Yeah.
kind of
Right.
taken aback. I would
Yeah.
have thought there would have been more food sources, but they were talking about places that elk favor when there's plenty food versus not food. North facing slopes that tend to have better water retention, and so they showed an image of.
Yeah.
And they were up north in northern Idaho for the
Okay.
most part in the video,
Okay.
but still things to think about. You can
But elk
apply to other
habitat's pretty
places.
much elk habitat.
Right. And so they showed elk habitat has water source, late September versus early October, and how something with water versus not water, and how it looks, and how the elk will just favor one over the other. So just thinking
Wow.
about those little things that kind of make a big deal when you're out there.
Yeah.
And so if it is so this is just in general elk habitat and water sources and things like that, but you have to take into consideration drought years versus wet years and things like that. So just it reinforced stuff we know, but also kind of highlighted like there's not as much food as you'd think, which makes sense that they're always moving to get food.
Right.
So-
And they have huge areas. Like I said, if that was all a source of food, we would see a lot more elk,
Yeah.
right? I mean, I just think there would be more elk up there. We saw, you see all this area, and there's, gosh, I only see 25, 30 elk, and it's probably double or triple that, but it doesn't seem like it
Right.
because the area is just so big. So yeah, that's a great resource just to always be understanding the elk.
Yeah, and getting it from the Idaho Department of Fish and Game or your local wherever if you're in a different state.
Yeah.
Get on their newsletters because they're releasing this information.
Yeah.
They are a publicly funded institute.
The biologist will tell you where to hunt elk.
You have access to their data.
Yeah.
They're not. I don't believe
if
they're
you
ever gonna
call
try to
them,
hide
they will
something.
talk to you.
Yeah.
And say, well, you might try up this one, you might try up this one, or they had a rough year this last year, so
Yeah.
don't try up there. And they got too much snow, or there's an avalanche or something. So the biologists are a great resource, and every like management area has their own has a working biologist, I think.
Yeah.
In every I'm not sure.
I don't know. It seems like that would make sense.
But every office,
every
office,
yeah, when you have these officers running around, they usually have those
Yeah.
biology backgrounds.
yeah,
At least that's what I've come across so far.
yeah. So I think they have an official biologist,
Oh, yeah.
not an officer, but a biologist who does
I guess that would make sense.
biological
I don't know.
studies. They do because they have to coordinate. You ever seen those triangle fences, right? And they're like 3 foot square,
Yeah.
and there's a plaque on it that says this is the Department of Land or this is the Forest Service.
Yeah.
They're doing studies on the grass and the feeding,
Yeah.
and the growth and all that stuff because they're coordinating it off from the deer
You too, huh?
to see what they're doing. So and there was one of those where I saw this weekend
Oh, cool.
when I was up. It was just right next to the road, as they typically are. But yeah, so they all have a biologist that's working actively on statewide and probably nationwide biological experiments that they have to keep up on. And I know there's some fish biologists at the CrossFit gym that I go
Okay.
to, and they talk about, oh yeah, I spent all summer rafting because we have to get these surveys done
Oh,
on
man, that sounds
fish.
horrible.
I know. And so yeah, they have.
Where did that go wrong?
Yeah, they spend more days on the water more hours in a raft than you do in a car.
Wow.
Yeah. So and there's all these ongoing studies constantly about migration patterns and grazing habits and fire damage and predator control, and we see the numbers of of mountain lions go up, and so there's a lot to it, and you can always talk about elk, and because if you can talk about the weather, you can talk about elk and what's happening right now with the water situation. Well, we've had some pretty good storms. That's what I say. Some really good storms.
Yeah.
I don't know what the snowpack is,
I don't either.
but and we'll start to follow the snowpack in like February.
Yeah,
There's
when
really
it's
there's really not a good reason
December
unless there's a
and-
giant storm.
Yeah, it's usually fairly light. At least it's not that there isn't snow. You ran into snow when you were out recently.
plenty
but,
of it. Yeah.
It's just that it's more important when you get into that springtime to know what's ahead and
Yeah.
what a warm versus a cold spring means.
So we can kind of infer from early snowfall what is pushing the elk down and out of any of the mountains and into the large groups that you see them in. So that's part of what the elk are going through right now.
Yeah,
Is
in fact, that biology video talked about cows mainly was the focus of their life cycle. Obviously, that's going to be the big ticket holder in life cycle.
Yeah.
Sorry, I don't know what I'm trying to say with that, but the point is,
yeah, I mean, it's, boys are pretty irrelevant unless you're hunting. They're pretty irrelevant to the life cycle.
they move to be warm. They're looking for a food source, and their ability to get that food source over the winter and to be able to have that fat store through the winter. So it's all about staying warm and having access to food. I mean, that makes sense. We know that, but
and conserving energy. And conserving energy means not running.
yeah.
So it's okay if wolves do it. It's not okay if humans do it. Well, it just sometimes in the late spring when humans do it, their fat stores are very depleted, and they could be at risk then with really low fat stores, depending on how the winter's been. But
They also talked about an old growth forest that is part of one of the management zones up north in Idaho. And it's old growth simply because in the 70s, the logging industry changed here in Idaho.
Yeah.
They mentioned, and they said it's likely playing a role. To what extent, they didn't really elaborate on. But that, it's possible that was part of what led to this old growth forest, because when you have more trees and more dense canopies,
Yeah.
less light getting to the floor, and so the food sources that would be there for the elk are
Yeah.
less likely to grow because of
Yeah.
that. So denser tree stands and fewer open areas play a key role into an elk population in a particular area, which I thought was interesting. So I guess there was a little bit more there.
yeah, and I guess anecdotally, I've noticed that.
Yeah.
We look for areas that are try to get close to 50-50
Tree,
forest
yep, tree
and
versus graze,
and grass. Yeah.
and that's been where we've primarily hunted.
Yeah.
for the most part.
Yeah, and it's been good for us.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we like to talk about the elk and the life cycle of the water and what the elk are going through right now. And I do see a lot of stuff on TikTok of the big herds coming together and taking long amounts of time to cross a road.
I know. I keep seeing the videos from last year pop up, and I'm like, "Where's this year, folks?"
It's coming.
Yeah,
It's coming.
patience,
As
young
much
Padawan.
as the spring grizzly bear videos are coming, just hold on. We'll be there before you know it.
So I'm horrified where this is going. Spring grizzly bear videos.
The spring grizzly bear videos that I remember seeing is the ones I showed you that I posted last year. The 2 grizzly bears running through a potato
Yeah.
field. The year before that, if somebody else posted 3 grizzly bears running along the side of the car.
Oh, yeah.
They were in the ditch and they come along and you're like, grizzly in the driveway, man. They're
Yeah.
coming. They're coming to Colorado. They're coming back to Utah.
They want you
They definitely do.
for dinner.
So, and then I want to talk about a couple, and I know this is just kind of, I'm just throwing this out there. I may have talked to you about it, but I want to throw it out there as well. Man,
Throw it down.
I've done a lot of talking today. Blah, blah, blah. I want to give something more. I want to, it's difficult. You can look at a map, you can look at Google Earth, and you can say, "Oh, I think this would be a good place to hunt."
Yeah.
And all the other guys that are out hunting just show you this is how you hunt,
Yeah.
and no one's really showing you where to hunt, which is a sin.
Yeah.
among hunters, but I don't know why.
Yeah.
I don't understand.
You know, I don't know. I don't understand either, because I'm
yeah.
thinking of all the stuff that I've read and everything I've experienced. And we've talked about it on this
Yeah.
podcast, like Elk Tactics, that book I read from 1998.
Yeah.
They outlined it. He said exactly what to look for. That's how I found the area that we tend to hunt mostly now.
Yeah.
Is I just applied those tactics. You look for long finger ridges, a mile in length or so, and you have good water habitat, and you kind of look for something that's sands a lot of roads,
Right.
and you should be good to go.
So yeah, and that's been my hot take. I go, you look at I went up a creek this year for the very first time. The very first time I've ever hunted with this guy, and we harvested a bull.
Yeah.
And it was like, okay, right, these dots are coming together. And I think, but the year before, I put cameras up.
Yeah.
And I think in September there'll be elk killer. Knowing what I know about elk, if I put a camera up here in September, there will be elk and elk activity.
Right.
And there clearly was. And you could see him but not hear him bugle.
Yeah, that was devastating.
Oh, that hurts my feelings. So I immediately did a bunch of videos on trail cams with good audio.
Yeah.
And I immediately bought some.
Yeah.
So I really want to get some better audio, because the vocalizations that elk make are really a part of what sells archery elk as the greatest outdoor sport in North America.
Yeah.
It's the interaction and the sounds that they make. So having some audio to go with that video just is always fun. It's always fun. But would I be, if I said, here's where I hunted, here's the creek I hunted, here's the trails I walked on, if I showed you video from where I was walking, like if I just walked up there, say, this is where I'm hiking, look all around, and now here's where I'm standing on Google Earth, and I can back way away, and you go, oh, that's where he's hunting elk.
Yeah.
Right? And so I can know very specifically. Now, there are other guys that hunt that area
Right.
that are not going to be happy about that video.
Yeah, I wouldn't be happy about that, because
right. I wouldn't do that to your area.
Well, but
because
see,
you showed me that area.
But see, the thing is the question was, why is that a cardinal sin?
Yeah.
And then I'm like, I don't understand. Then I quickly say, but don't do it to me. And so,
okay.
But so I'm just having a thought out loud, and maybe this is where you were going or not. I don't know. But when it talks about breaking it down and learning for yourself how to understand, no matter where you're at, I'm okay with, because I spouted that off.
Right.
But when it comes to your area, the psychology of it is, well,
I know
people are going to gravitate towards other people's success. I mean, we ran into that hunter that was coming down. He's like, "Where are you hunting?" And like, and he got all mad at us because we were like kind of being tight-lipped, and he was being. But then it was like,
yeah,
it's I don't know. It doesn't necessarily need to be so territorial.
Yeah, and I don't understand.
But I appreciate.
I would happily tell the area that I got my bull last year.
Sure.
Right? I would happily tell everybody exactly where that is. I won't have a problem with that. Right? I found that area.
Yeah.
I showed it to you. Right? Sure. And it's a great area. It's really cool. And I think that I don't think that there's enough of that on YouTube. Like where if we really do like and respect the contribution that out-of-state hunters make, helping them say where to put your boots on the ground is a really important step.
So for me, because I don't have a lot of time, the areas that I have, it's not that I'm trying to keep them sacred, but trying to make sure that I increase my ability to have less pressure from other hunters.
Yeah.
Right? So whether it's that one that you showed me or the one I'm going to now. But if I was in a situation where I have, this week I'm here, next week I'm there, and I'm doing something different all the time.
Yeah.
I don't see a problem with that, because it's just and as long as it's not like during the hunting season, and it's videos you show like in the and again,
okay.
But whoever does whatever you can, at the end of the day, you can do.
I know that I can
whatever you want.
I know that I can, and I know
my
that
feelings be damned.
It doesn't matter. Well, your feelings, everybody's going to have the same feelings when I get to their area. When I'm in their area, I mean, you could go to. I could name Mormon Hill.
Sure.
Right, the Mormon Hill takeoff out of Cary.
Yeah,
There's There's so many parking spaces. There's so many trails to go out of there. If I started at a place like that,
Sure.
right? And you go, you could go any which direction from this place. There's a lot of guys that hunt from there. But my plan is, when I think about it, I go, gosh, there's all these guys. If I saw them somewhere else, like, if I ran into, let's say I got 20 videos on YouTube,
Yeah.
and then I see somebody in a different hunting area, and they recognize me, and they go, I don't want you here.
Yeah. What if it
Right?
was, what if it was this?
Yeah.
It's about going to an area and you're scouting it. So you're just showing people how to scout and look for signs.
Yeah, but if that's your hunting area,
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, when
I'm just trying to figure out a way to help you out with this urge.
I know. It's
complicated.
yeah. It is complicated, but only because we're involving people's feelings. Right?
Yeah.
The whole idea is look at this habitat. We went and placed those trail cameras way out in the Sawtooth Zone outside of Stanley.
Mm-hmm.
And I just said, I just expect elk to be here in September. And they were. And like I said, we're never going to go back there. Right?
Right. Yeah.
That was a nightmare. I could give the Latin long to those where that bull was.
Right.
But we also had other hunters on our trail cam.
Yeah, we did.
And
So my
That's
thought
a
now,
tough
though,
one.
I thought that just popped in my head isn't what you're describing, isn't that the job for outfitters?
yeah, but they charge something so exorbitant. It's just
So-
horrible. I just cannot. I just don't like the idea of outfitters. You're just buying game.
Well,
you get the
I
experience
guess it depends
of
on
killing.
the outfitter, and I don't know any outfitters to verify my statement, and I can appreciate your statement too, but I would imagine there's variability amongst any industry.
Of course, it's a spectrum. Of course, it is. But and so then yes, I guess I'd be an outfitter. And if I call myself an outfitter, I can show everybody
Now-
on the internet where to hunt elk.
If
And
you're
I can say, I'm an outfitter. I'm teaching these people. I get paid by
So,
the number of
are you-
views that are on my page.
maybe, but are
And-
you ready for this?
yeah.
I'm going to throw a twist at you.
Sure.
There's an analogy here. It comes
Okay.
from the world of higher education. In the world of higher education, I am peddled textbooks from major publishing companies, aka major outfitters.
Right.
Say they're going to charge, and they're going to offer an opportunity for me to help them with their outfitting. There's also a world out there called Open Education Resources, which is free,
Yeah.
provided by people who just put it together and offer it for free.
Right.
So there's precedent for what you're wanting to do, is what I'm saying.
Well, Harvard has all of its courses online for free. All of them. You can't get credit, but you can get the knowledge.
A lot of I've actually watched a few Stanford things. So it's not just
Yeah.
Harvard. It's a
Oh
bunch of
yeah.
places,
Oh, it's
but
tons.
yeah.
Oh, yeah. There's plenty. So anyway,
I'm just saying there's precedent for what you want to do.
my intent would not be to anger anyone about any given district, but just to illustrate that there are so many places to hunt elk. And I think with what I've learned about elk, that I would love to hunt a different spot every year.
I would too.
And-
I wish I had that kind of time.
And yeah, I know, I know, yeah, like I do. But there's other different, and there's some different hunts. I would like to show, because there's some cycling trails that are into the Sawtooths and around Copper Basin, and it would be a great way to hunt. And I've just looked at so many different, I could go here. Oh, look at this. Oh, I can't believe that's there. Look at this over here. And there's so many different places to hunt. And if I just accidentally got, I don't know. I think I would have to have like 50 areas before it's like, okay, it's not really,
Well,
if I just did one area.
Isn't there
that-
only sorry.
No, 50 trails, 50
I know,
hikes.
I'm just kidding.
There's a million hikes.
I was going to make a really dumb joke, even though I
Yeah.
knew where you're at, because there's only like 44 counties in Idaho, bro. But there's a lot of space within that. so
There's
it's a dumb
just
joke.
millions of places for different guys to have boots on the ground.
Yeah.
And there's no reason they shouldn't know exactly where to start. and because it's becoming popular.
Yeah.
Archery elk is becoming more and more popular, and it's going to take more and more work. Part of why I would say I would give you the Latin long to those old trail cameras is because it's so hard to get to.
Yeah.
Who's going to go there? I know 2 studs that I had on the trail camera.
Yeah.
And then us two
others who wouldn't put them up there.
Yeah. It was a rough hike, and there's got to be a better way into that spot. But man, there was a ton.
We were looking. It's funny because you go somewhere and you fall in love with certain qualities that it has and holds, and of course it holds animals there too. And so there's some other access routes, but to what extent does it make it easier or more challenging? And so we just haven't explored that. Not that we will, but we had a couple of alternative routes that we talked about.
Yeah.
And they came from both directions, if I remember right.
Yeah.
But anyway.
So anyways, that idea is floating around. It's running through the empty prairie of my brain.
Empty prairie?
Yeah, it's galloping through the empty prairie of my brain.
With lots of grizzlies in that prairie.
Yeah, we're just waiting for them to stand up. One of my favorite grizzly bear stories comes from Undaunted Courage by Stephen Ambrose.
Okay.
It was probably the most comprehensive work on the Lewis and Clark expedition, and he wrote that Lewis was out making some notes in his journal, and he sees some buffalo, and he goes to shoot one of the buffalo. And his rifle at the time was so gigantic he couldn't hold it up because it was a buffalo gun.
Yeah,
and he had this big forked prong, like a little monopod, I guess. They would set the end of the rifle in so he could shoot at buffalo. He shoots at the buffalo and misses, and a grizzly bear stands up out of the grass to see what the noise was.
Wow!
And charges him.
Jeez.
And he has to take both this rifle and the holder and run. And he's just trying to get away, and he's coming up on a river or a creek, and he just like, oh, I'm gonna lose it. I'm gonna lose that fight. And he turns around and he holds both of those things up and he screams at the bear, and the bear ran away.
Told you.
And Lewis and Clark lived to tell that tale.
Make some noise. Oh,
isn't that something? So
when I'm making 20 times more noise when I see those videos online of people not making noise at bears that are intruding on our space. Yeah. I'm just like, and it's almost as if I think they can hear me in some way, but they can't. Anyway, make noise. Sorry. They knew it, they didn't know, but they did it and it worked. Yeah.
I guess, there's some different tactics that they had learned and picked up, but it was it was an interesting encounter.
That is cool.
Interesting encounter. So we could probably get to our news bits.
We have like 4 in the folder.
Okay, that's all right. We can expand.
Yeah, we can embellish.
But keep in mind that idea and stew on it this week, and think about what that would mean. And if you're watching this online, please comment like it's okay, but don't do my hunting area. Or, hey, I have an old hunting area I used to go. I know some guys who hunt up there still.
Yeah.
I don't like them anymore. Here, go here. No, okay, don't do that.
Yeah, it's a unique situation that we're facing. You know?
They're going to be out here. They're going to find it. They're going to be out here anyway. And if they all call the same biologist, and they all tell them our area, well, that's going to suck for us, right?
Yeah.
So,
well, and that was one of the first things I encountered in the area we hunt was that the other hunters that I ran into from a local area were frustrated because of the way that Fish and Game, according to them, were sending everybody to that area. Yeah. But when we looked on some elk management processes for that area, that was when they started to do more aggressive elk management strategies in that area.
Right.
And then it's finally dwindled down, and now it's below those numbers, and they're going to let it bounce back. And so it's like, oh,
yeah.
So I part of me wonders if they were of full knowledge about what the elk management plan was for that zone.
I'm sure they were. I bet they were. I would bet they were. I'm not sure, but I would bet they were.
I don't know.
And they would understand. Look, we're looking to decrease the number of elk in this area. No, when hunters call, I'm going to tell them to go there.
I mean the hunters that I ran into.
Yeah.
Not the Idaho Fish and Game.
Oh, okay.
Because the hunters that I ran into that were concerned about what Fish and Game was doing, I don't think they were aware fully of what Fish and Game was trying to do. Otherwise, they may have altered their plans
Right.
around their hunt.
Knowing
'Cause
that
it-
that was Fish and Game was trying to do. But if that's what Fish and Game is trying to do, it might mean there's too many elk up there.
Yeah.
It might be a good place to go.
So
Fish and Game might be a good place to
and no
start.
complaints. They were cool guys, a father and a son, just absolutely great people to talk to. We hung for a little bit before I took off and had an encounter with a 5-point and a bull and a cow.
Nice.
Rather.
Okay.
But, let's start back east here. Belleville, Pennsylvania. Sorry, PA, Pennsylvania.
Oh, okay.
Belleville, PA. Wow, that is it almost looks like it's out of a fantasy book. This
Yeah.
elk.
Yeah.
So it's
Like if AI made it.
yeah.
Uh-oh. We got to be watching out for a lot of AI stuff. No.
That's
I don't
right,
think
yeah.
this is, but
No, just a trophy rack, and it's the top forks are just. It's like those.
like spoons, like moose
Yeah,
almost. Yeah.
It's just it's something to behold. To be honest.
And it was an Amish.
Oh yeah.
It was an Amish.
Oh yeah. Hello.
So drone deer recovery.
Once you said that, it all hit me.
Yeah.
And the hat and everything, man. That was
Yeah. Yeah. Look at him. That's great.
That's awesome.
That's great. There's a guy, Drone Deer Recovery. If you haven't seen Drone Deer Recovery, man, that is the ticket.
Yeah.
That guy's really cool. But he was born and raised Amish.
Oh.
He speaks Dutch, and you see him because he comes out to these because he's in that part of the country where there's a lot of Amish, and so sometimes the Amish call him and say, or people that speak Dutch as well, and so that's really cool tie-in. But yeah, a nice big elk in Pennsylvania Amish country.
Yeah, Pennsylvania. If we go a little bit farther west now to Minneapolis.
Yeah.
Got some cougars running around town. We're
Yeah.
not talking about them old ladies either. Sorry.
Mountain lions.
Mountain lions.
Yeah. And I know last time we talked about a mountain lion being able to pull a cow elk.
Yeah.
To put a cow elk in its jaws and pull a
Yeah.
dead cow elk, dead weight. That is hard work. These are very powerful and dangerous animals, and they have very murderous intentions.
Yes. Speaking of which, a study to confirm that was also
Yes.
released
Today.
recently.
Today is when I saw it.
Yeah. Murderous creature you live with is a murderous creature.
Yeah.
Study confirms. Cats.
Yeah, just the common house cat. House cats kill, I forget what it is, 2 or 4 billion songbirds a year.
Yeah. Oh, they are.
And yeah, they're just deadly. They're just deadly. And the joke we used to say, they have razor sharp teeth and claws, they pee ammonia, and they think about nothing but murder all day.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's a cat.
Yep.
But I think I was reading I better not say. I think I read somewhere that you can use your mountain lion tag as a second wolf tag in Idaho.
I think we've had this conversation, but
Have we?
I don't think we've
Oh.
don't think we've done it. I don't think we've had the conversation on our podcast, but I
Okay.
know we've talked about that
Oh,
before.
okay.
Like we've heard it somewhere, but we never vetted that.
No, I was digging through the reg book this week, and I had a bunch of weird stuff, and so much stuff I didn't put anything in the podcast. Obviously,
Hey, it's one of those weeks.
I was looking for laws on coyotes. They were hard to find because there just aren't
Yeah.
any. They're like, don't shoot from your car. Okay, well that wasn't my first question.
Yeah, that's. Do you want to go to that one, or do you want to wait? I was trying to make the rounds to end in Idaho, but that's
No. Yeah, we'll make the rounds when in and out.
because we only have
Yeah.
one more before we get to
Okay.
Idaho, and it's in Montana this time.
Yeah.
So this has to do with poaching.
Oh yeah, you were telling me about this.
Yeah, so 2 men were indicted for illegal killing, trafficking of bald and golden eagles from Montana.
Oh wow.
And, so near the Flathead Reservation, so it's in that area.
Okay. Yeah. That's
In fact, first thing that came to mind is like, I wonder what Jared knows about. Not that he would know them, but just like
Yeah.
what's the local vibe around these kinds of things, and if Jared ever comes across that kind of stuff and thinks about it, I don't know, just a thought that popped in my head when I saw this because he's from that area. But in the article, it talked about these guys bragging, like just being open, like they had gone into it so deep that their guards are down everywhere.
complacency. Yeah.
And it's like they're bragging about how many feathers and how much money he can get for the feathers when he sells them. And I'm just like, oh man, just no. How about no?
What if eagles were off the endangered species list, off the protected list?
Well, it's if the laws have changed,
Okay.
that's one thing, but if they're not, right?
Yeah. Would you buy an eagle feather?
If it was legal, yeah.
I don't think I would buy one.
If I could obtain one legally, I would.
Right.
I don't know if I would mean purchasing it or
we
not.
came across, I think, an eagle feather, on the corpse of that spike when we were hiking out. There was a bunch of birds, and I thought I saw a big eagle fly away.
I thought that was like just a hawk, but it could have been.
It was a lot bigger than a hawk, so I thought it was a golden eagle.
Golden eagles are huge.
Yeah, it was huge. And we found a big feather there, and we're like, well, we better leave it here. That's probably not okay to have in our possession.
I think
and we
remember
left it
Jared saying something about it
Yeah.
because he's native. But
yeah.
I don't know. I think there's something to be said about bald eagles being delisted.
Yeah.
They've bounced back. Their population is
They're doing really
nuisance.
good. They're
in
doing
some
really
places.
good.
So
A nuisance.
up in Alaska, they've been
Yeah.
a nuisance for a couple of decades now.
Yeah.
They're so problematic. There's so many of them. But
Well, I would need to know more about the ecosystem. What is about them that's problematic? They're taking too many fish?
yeah.
Oh, okay.
So when those
Fish
the
competition.
salmon come in, yeah.
I remember I had a health teacher in 7th grade who went to see the eagles feed, and she said all these eagles perched in the same tree because it didn't have any needles or anything.
Yeah.
And she said the fish heads fell like raindrops out of that tree.
Oh, geez.
So, and that was barely in the 80s.
Wow.
So it's been 40 years.
Yeah, they've been making a comeback.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's Montana. That's to the north of here, but then back to Idaho with coyotes. So the question that I'm looking at here just says, can you use lights for hunting coyotes in Idaho? And it's a good question because if you think about it, if you have how would you say? And I don't know if this is what a coyote is in Idaho, but if you have a nuisance animal, like something that is just overbearing, there's too much of a population, and it's really hard to get during daylight hours. Something like the pigs we talked about in Texas, you almost have to hunt them at night. They don't.
Pigs
have
are almost in
so,
every state now.
Yeah,
They're in Oklahoma
there
and
was
Kansas.
an
They're
article
coming down from Canada and Montana.
Yeah, I was going to say I saw an article about the Canadian a Canadian breed that we're kind of trying to fend off, but anyway, so coyotes though, they can be a nuisance, but can we use lights to hunt them at night?
So
what you got there?
the answer, according to this website, and this is not from the reg book, I want to make that clear.
There is a really interesting Temu ad right above it.
Yeah,
Just kidding. I don't know what the Temu
there's
ad is.
but from what that says is if you get a permit,
Yeah, okay.
yeah, you can totally hunt with a spotlight.
What do you think the best way to find out quickly would be on whether or not that's real or not?
Well, it's probably in the reg book, but you can talk to
to
Fish and Game.
Yeah, just call Fish and Game.
You could call Fish
It's
and
just
Game.
a PSA. Like if you're not sure, call PSA.
I've been
call
seeing
Fish
a
and
lot of night vision goggles on YouTube. Can you use night vision goggles in Idaho? Yes,
Huh.
because this was on the same website, but
Okay.
it did discuss, and you don't need a permit to have night vision when it's the right species.
Okay.
So coyotes, wolves, because I saw some guys hunting wolves in Idaho at night. They were like up all night with these
Wow.
rifles with night vision on their rifles
Jeez.
and looking way up. They're hard to hunt. They're really hard.
Do you think if you have a laser sight, it would be easier to get them? Because dogs and cats like to chase those lasers, man.
Ooh, get the laser. Get the laser. You know how they have, you could have them like have a little design that make it look like a little elk, little red
Right.
elk on the side of the hill. Ooh. Anyways, so that would be interesting. I'm interested in, because I know I want to go out and I want to do more video, and I will put up video of some deer that I saw, some really cool video. It's in our YouTube. It's really cool shots. I got to observe, just sit and watch for a couple hours this little herd of deer.
sometimes that's one of the best things you can
Oh,
experience.
It was a great day for it. It was a great day for it. I was beside this big tree. It was kind of cold, but beside this big tree, and I got my tripod set up and my phone's up to it. Everything's charged, and I can just look over at my phone and see the deer. I can pick up my binoculars and look around to make sure there's nothing else. If I see something moving, I can spin the scope around. I'm not very far from the car at all. And so, I cooked a can of chili in my Jetboil,
Nice.
which, by the way, I'm going to cover. I'm going to cover how to cook, because we talk a lot about food on the Elk Season podcast, and freeze dried meal pouches are the worst.
Correct.
They're just the worst. They're just depressing.
Yeah.
And a can of chili.
Yeah.
Oh, a can of chili! I
See,
can't tell you how motivating a can of chili was for me.
I like to do Madras lentils. Now they're not as hearty
Yeah.
because it's all vegan, but it's so good.
Yeah.
The Madras lentils, and you can add stuff to it.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
but it comes in a pouch that you can
Yeah.
put water in there. Then you shove the pouch in there, and you don't even have to open the pouch, and it'll just boil it there. So it's not in the can, right?
Right.
Anyway, just saying, there's options. Madras lentils. If you haven't explored those on a hike, you're missing out.
Yeah. So, anyways, I found a really quick way real quick and easy way to cook a can of chili or stew or whatever you like. If you're going to pack up a hill with freeze-dried meal pouch, you're probably going to take water with you.
Yeah.
Why not just take a can of stew?
Yeah.
Just take something good. And I remember doing this a bunch of times in 55 when I sat a tree stand, because sitting still all day in the freezing cold is a pain, man.
Yeah, it is.
And I went through all the little hotties and all the little hottie variations that they had, and I don't know, so many cups of cocoa. You could feel the cocoa film on your teeth, and all this stuff. So I learned how to cook in a tree stand, on a ledge. I'm just on a ledge, but
Yeah.
I was able to cook cans of food in my Jetboil. And I liked it. It worked out really well. So I just want to go over that method. I know there's other guys probably doing it too, but
No, hey, you never know though.
yeah.
You never know.
Yeah, please stop eating freeze-dried meal pouches. It's depressing me.
There's one exception to that rule, and they're
The
freeze-dried
apocalypse.
potatoes.
The apocalypse. No, meal pouches. Freeze-dried potatoes is fine. Nothing rehydrates like a potato.
True.
I love rehydrated
Okay.
potatoes.
It's a good qualification, I guess. I should just
Yeah.
pay more attention to that.
The meal pouch, they try to sell you this. Oh, it's so easy. Yeah, it is. It is, but there's a price you pay
I'm gonna throw away. I don't know why I'm holding on to some of those meal pouches.
for the apocalypse.
All right.
For the apocalypse, you could.
I'll save it for
Oh,
you.
you could trade a week's of work for one of those meal pouches in the apocalypse. I'm
Yeah.
telling you.
It's my way of saying thanks to anybody who helps me haul out my elk.
That's what it's meant for. That's the kind of meal prep. It's meant for major hurricane system breakdown,
Yeah.
whatever it is. They're not for hunting. I mean, they sell them
Yeah.
to you for hunting, but they're just. Please don't.
Yeah, it's okay. You don't need it that bad.
There's-
I went into the Bob Marshall Wilderness. I had that attitude that why bring something freeze dried if I'm gonna. But we were stopping for water everywhere. So freeze dried actually made
Yeah.
more sense on
Yeah.
that because it was a
Right.
backpacking trip.
Yes, on
So
a
I
backpacking
regret
trip.
that. But,
yeah,
but
we do it different.
we do it different when we're hunting, and it doesn't. Even if I'm going in for 5 days, though, it still
Yeah.
doesn't.
But a day or two,
Yeah.
you could carry canned food. You could carry canned food for
I
a day or
carried
two. canned
canned raviolis into the back wilderness of the
Oh,
Bob
yeah.
Marshall. It
Yeah.
was delicious.
Fantastic. and if you're just going out for a day hike, man, and you can, I'm telling you, a warm stew, warm chili on that hillside.
Dude.
Oh,
Stop.
heaven. I know.
It's the pulled pork quesadillas.
Oh, man. Smoked pulled pork. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I still have memories of that pop up. I'll be in a random place. I'll be somewhere nowhere near hunting, and I'm not even. And all of a sudden, I'll be in the middle of the class talking about who knows what psychology, and I'll be like, smoked pulled pork.
Crispy,
Crispy.
gooey,
Yeah.
smoked pulled pork on the
Oh my
hillside.
gosh.
Oh, it just warms you from the inside out.
Sorry. Wow.
Yeah.
I'm going back.
Yeah.
The cat. I'm sure that. Yeah.
So meat and potatoes, quesadilla, And that's if you're in the if you're going into the backcountry.
Yeah.
There's probably a few other dried goods you might be able to get, but potatoes. In fact, I read a story today on potatoes.
Okay.
Potatoes have so much energy in them. They're trying to delist them as vegetables. But they're a super starchy vegetable.
Yeah.
So they need to be classified as rice and grains because they have so much energy.
Okay.
What does that mean? Who cares, right? Well, if the public school system is a perfect example, are you getting enough vegetables?
Huh.
Well, yeah, I had tater tots. I'm getting my vegetables. They want to
Oh.
take those away. Anyway, the war of potatoes will be won by
Idaho will go down
potatoes.
swinging.
Oh man, oh please.
Actually, the world will go down to Idaho swinging at it for trying to take
They
away
will.
their potatoes.
Yeah, you will.
This spud's for you.
And you'll be hungry. And you'll be hungry in the apocalypse because we have all
Yeah.
the potatoes because that is such
Really-
an incredible energy source.
That and
Yeah.
you know, and sweet potatoes don't grow the same. They're a vine. Did you know that?
They still grow underground.
Well, they grow underground.
Yeah.
They're tubers, but they're not. They're a vine, and they'll
I
actually
didn't know
act
that.
like a weed, and they'll take over your area if you're not careful.
Oh, really?
That's why I haven't planted them in my garden, because if you don't get it all out, it'll come back and it'll start to it'll sort of take over.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's good to know though, if you can get a sweet potato patch during the apocalypse.
It's a good
That's
energy source.
It's
Yeah.
a great and
It's a
they're
great
so
energy
good.
source.
We always forget how good sweet potatoes are when we eat them, and we're not talking about Thanksgiving dinner. We just
No.
you make them and add it. You can
Just
go
a
sweet or
baked sweet
savory.
potato. I make sweet potatoes all the time. And I just bake them for an hour, let them cool for an hour, and I peel them and I put them in a bowl, and
Yeah.
that's it. That's
It's just-
all
yeah, they're
I do.
so sweet.
Nothing. They're so sweet. Anyway, so I love sweet potatoes. I wish there's probably somewhere online I could get freeze-dried sweet potatoes,
Maybe.
right? Right? Because pulled pork goes better with sweet. Pulled pork and sweet potatoes is magic. Is magic. I love
Okay.
that stuff. Anyway,
To be
So-
continued.
yeah, definitely. So, anyways, I guess did we have enough to fill up a
Yeah, we're pretty much there.
56? Right on.
We made it. Hey, give us an hour, we'll fill it.
Yeah. If we start talking about elk, and I forget about all the things that I read, but that's the mission statement of the Elk Season
Yeah.
podcast is to help you think about elk every day of your life, every day of the year until how many days is it till elk season? You know what? I'll look it up. I got it.
I thought about that prior to
I got
today,
it.
and you know what I didn't do?
You didn't look it up?
I thought about this earlier today, and I'm like, you know what? We don't need to look that up yet. We're not into next year. But I digress. I have been proven wrong.
261 days. We are 100 days away from elk season, from last elk season,
Wow.
and 261 days to go until August 30th, 2024.
Wow.
Yep. So there you go. That's the official countdown.
Wow. I'm like, it's hurting my brain that we're that far away from hunting season already.
Yeah.
It doesn't.
Well, we got a lot to do between now and then. I got a lot of weight to lose. You know, I'm trying. So I'm in holiday mode right now on my diet,
Okay.
which is easy, buddy.
Yeah.
Easy.
I've been in that mode, yeah.
Right? Just okay. The cookies are here. Don't have 7.
Have
2.
maintenance.
Whoa, boy. Whoa. So, anyways, I'm saying that to myself a lot.
Yeah, so am I. The last
Easy,
couple years
bud.
have been horrendous for me, and I'm just.
It's dumb. It's dumb.
Yeah.
Food will always be here for
And
you.
I'm gonna, after this podcast, I'm making cookies for tomorrow. So
yeah, you are. Yeah, you are.
Anyway,
Okay. We'll see you when we see you next. It'll be soon.
yeah, soon-ish.
Relative to.
We can go if you're
The past
available
2
next
years.
week. There's that, or
Okay.
between Christmas and New
Yeah,
Year's,
yeah, yeah.
whatever. So
We'll get at least one more in.
this is episode 29.
Yeah, yeah. Season 2, episode 29. All right. And that's it, I guess.
Cheers.
See you later.